Welcome to episode 7, talking about chapter 7, I'm getting it right this time, of The Mandalorian. Yeah, Disney Plus's The Mandalorian, the spectacular Star Wars spin-off. And, we're going to talk about, I think we're going to do a special show after episode 8, proper, to talk about this series in relation to a film we saw the other day called Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker. I will say, and again, we're talking full spoilers tonight, that the end of chapter 7 got me more worked up emotionally than anything that I saw in all of episode 9.
Yeah.
Now, the fate of the character that we're going to be talking about is unclear, because it's entirely possible that they're not going to kill off this beloved franchise sidekick so early, but it's also possible that they will. And he looked pretty far gone to me in that last shot. So let's dive into it. What did we all think of The Reckoning?
Ooh, it was good. I needed it. It was something I needed after that movie we saw last night. So finally, as everyone knows, I'm gonna say this one wasn't episodic, and this actually connected to an arc in the story. But yeah, no, it's like, yeah, we see how all the other episodes connected. Dave Filoni had a plan. By putting it together, and yeah, it was exciting. You didn't know where it was going to start, where it was going to end. It was great to see Carl Weathers back in such a big role. It was great to kind of see like the real stakes that are going to happen now with this baby. See where the Mandalorian's going to fall into trouble. And I love how all these roles of these movies don't just feel like shameless cameos. Like they actually serve a purpose to the
very much so
greater arc. And yeah, we visited Kroll again, the Ugnaught, played by Nick Nolte. We finally got to see Giancarlo Esposito, which I think Dave predicted was the guy who walked in the frame at the end of episode 6, was it? I think, or no, I'm sorry, episode 5. And because we were all wondering who that was, and that was him.
That's Boba Fett. Come on.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Right, that's Boba Fett. But what? J.J. Abrams direct this? He has to put in more fan service. Anyway. So yeah, we get to see more stakes here, and we get to see where the story evolves, and it definitely ends on a cliffhanger with Nick Nolte passed out drunk on the ground, and we get to So I'm excited to see where this is gonna go in the next episode. It's good to have good Star Wars. You could tell Disney released this like right before the Rise of Skywalker, because they're anticipating a shitstorm, and good timing for release. I love how there's that little preview for the Rise of Skywalker on the corner, like that 1-minute preview. Now, does this connect to the Rise of Skywalker because Yoda can heal people's arms, and that's like a force power?
There are articles popping up talking about how, yes, there's a connection.
Yeah.
I find it to be a very tenuous connection. People get healed with force powers in a way that maybe we haven't seen before in Star Wars. I'm racking my brain, but the whole like mortal injury, you put your hand over it, and then all of a sudden it's magically healed like an X-Men power.
Yeah, like Wolverine, yeah.
Right, but I mean, them selling that as a connection to episode 9 is just so tenuous,
Whatever, the less you can connect to episode 9, the happier I am, so.
Very true. So, David, what did you think of The Reckoning?
I liked it, especially the homage to Pitch Black. That was pretty cool. That was cool. And there
was Rain of Fire.
These winged creatures interrupting a nighttime camping scene. That was pretty cool. Didn't expect that. I enjoyed it. I knew something like this was going to happen. I mean, I knew we'd see some of these characters again. Cara Dune, Grief Karga. I was glad to see Nick Nolte's Ugnaught back. It just made sense. There was build up to this. And so all those people who complained about, oh, it's not part of the whole plot, blah blah blah, it's like, just give it a chance to breathe, okay? So that's cool. Yeah, Mike, that was for you. But
You're right.
yeah, and as far as them releasing this before the week of Rise of Skywalker, guys, this thing was all in the can, months ago. So they just.
I think I would say, I would assume Mike was talking about, yeah, it was all filmed, but in terms of staggering the release, of, like 2 months before the release of the film, leading up to it, to get people excited about Star Wars again.
Keep them excited, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if that's the strategy, but I think it can't hurt because, and we'll talk more about this later. And by the time we do talk about it officially, we'll know exactly how this thing does. But the critics' consensus right now on the tomato meter is very poor. There's no shortage of internet heads exploding all over the place in dark glee at that news. But for right now, I'm just holding on to the fact that we do have some pretty great Star Wars on TV. And I think as far as episodes go, this was not the arc that I was looking for. But it in terms of connecting these last 3 episodes together, they're doing it in terms of, I think, stakes, and also showing us a different kind of story than what we've seen before. This is the second episode in a row that has really involved a larger character ensemble for the Mandalorian to have to deal with. And I get the feeling that there's going to be even more of that in the finale, episode 8. This episode felt like the lead up to the climax of the Wild Bunch, like the kind of whorehouse scene where they're all just like getting drunk and like sleeping around and just partying before they head into that town. There's even a shot.
Disney Plus.
Yes, well, okay. Disney Plus is. Oh, I'd watch Disney Plus's The Wild Bunch. That would be a 5-minute short, and it would just be the opening and closing credits. But no, there's even a shot when they finally walk into town with Carl Weathers and his quote unquote prisoners. That reminded me of them walking into that town in Mexico with the arches and the kind of soldiers all lazing about and not really caring about what goes on until the shit hits the fan.
Right.
So yeah, it was a nail biter. And honestly, I was so confused by that closing shot. I didn't know whether to cry or just to, I think one of the benefits of having this be a week-to-week thing instead of just a binge release is it's keeping me hanging on this emotional tether. I have to wait another week and a half to find out what happened to Quill, if he's actually dead.
Right. Your Christmas is ruined.
Kind of. And my wife wasn't home to watch this with me tonight, so I get to go through that again like tomorrow night.
Merry Christmas, Quill is dead.
So the last scene you're talking about is when the Nick Nolte's Ugnaught is face down in the dirt?
Yeah.
Okay.
And there's like smoke coming off of him, very Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru style.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's
it's possible that
playing his music. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe he got shot off of the speeder, and before Baby Yoda got snatched, he psychically sent some healing mojo his way or something. But I don't think so. He looked pretty gone to me.
The next episode's going to open with him saying, "I have
risen."
No, it's going to open with a crawl that says "The dead speak." Sorry, spoiler for episode 9.
Wow. What I liked about this episode is that when we go back and the Mandalorian is given an offer by Grief Karga, and it's kind of an offer he can't refuse because he realizes that he's never going to be able to sit on a hill and look at the sunset next to Baby Yoda in peace. So he has to go back and face Grief Karga, and there's kind of a deal being made, but it could go south, and it could be a double cross. Of course, that could be turned into yes, it is. But he knows that he can't do this alone. And like I said, these previous episodes have built up to the possibility of him recruiting, cohorts. So we go back, and when we meet Cara Dune again, we get a little bit more information about her, which is interesting. With the camera goes to her like she's fighting this other dude who's like a Darth Maul species because he's got all the horns on his head and he's just a big like lumbering huge guy, and they're doing this like bar fight wrestling match. It's funny because it's they have this like laser tether to each other, and yeah, I didn't know the logistics of it, but I want to know more information about like okay, what are the rules of this game, anyway.
And that's that's what I love about this incarnation of Star Wars. It's not just, I mean, they could have just been sitting in that bar like playing a rough and tumble game of virtual chess, like we see every time there's a game in the Star Wars universe, it's that damn chess game.
He's gonna rip your arm off.
Yeah, I mean, so it's new and it's fun and it's weird because I want to see more of that laser whip tether.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, I'm getting feedback now.
He just reported himself.
What's
Are we
that?
all right?
Oh yeah, we're good.
Okay. Yeah, my laptop's finally working.
Oh,
I know. So and I like that, and I think we learn a little bit more about how she feels about going back and helping him out. There's something about a chain code, and I think it's interesting how the determining factor for her was that when he says that we'd be going against Imperials, and I like how they in this episode they reference them as imps. I don't know if they've referenced them like that in the other episodes, but that was kind of funny. It's like imps, so that was her. That was her selling point. Is okay. Well, we're gonna go against the Imperials. I'm not quite sure still what the tattoos on her shoulder meant, or that that was an issue of maybe a giveaway or something.
I imagine it's probably some kind of like the equivalent, like the rebel equivalent of a Marine tattoo or something like that.
Right. Just
like a dead giveaway. Cara Dune was like, she was so great in this episode because she is more of a character here. We spend more time with her. She's a total badass, but in that kind of a way that she's sort of the equal to the Mandalorian, but they have very different personalities, which I dug. I like the fact that we see IG-11 again, and I wasn't quite sure when he walked in because it's Taika Waititi still doing the voice, but it's so different than what he was doing before because he's a different version of himself. There's so much packed into this 40 minutes that, again, I hate to go back to episode 9, but like in 2.5 hours, there wasn't this much intrigue. Yeah. We've got the droid stuff with Quill. Right. We've got the recruiting thing with Carl Weathers, the dragon attack. That incredible sequence where the Imperials show up in a major way and just blow that bar all to hell. Yeah, and it's a great visual contrast. We've got the Endor speeder bike guys guarding the village, right? And they're all dirty and kind of rusty, just like the other stormtroopers we'd seen guarding the client. But then when Moff Gideon shows up, he shows up with shiny black stormtroopers and then another transport of the pristine white stormtroopers coming in. So it's this contrast of like, there's still something going on with the Empire out there. And they're serious. They're not messing around with these piddly little, rejects like the client, apparently.
Yeah. Well, there was that monologue by Werner Herzog where he said, why did you betray us? You could see how you thought your little rebellion, after you destroyed the Death Star or whatever would make things better, but now there's just death everywhere. And, we're still not going away.
And it's a compelling argument, honestly. Yeah. I mean, it's life under tyranny, but given what you were talking about, the idea of Mando never being able to enjoy a sunset in peace, you get the feeling that if he had just, and a lot of people in the galaxy had just signed up to be part of the Empire, they would have had a peaceful existence because they would have been the ones with the boots on the necks of people that they probably wouldn't ever see. They chose liberty, but that comes with a big price.
Right. Yeah. I did like that scene with Herzog because it was almost like a different. Obviously, when we last saw him, he was it felt like he was in somewhat of a position of power. In here, there was someone almost like an underneath it all. There was somewhat of a panic to him of what was going to be happening, or what has transpired has really affected him, and obviously we could see what happened to him. He was one of the guys that got shot up. But it was funny because you get the idea that when this transmission came in the bar, it was a call for the client, Herzog, and they set up the call. I guess it's the hologram call, and works better than Skype, I guess. But Giancarlo Esposito, you get the idea that he must have been in his TIE fighter or something when he was making this call, because minutes later he's landing, and this is the first time I've seen a TIE fighter land like that, where the wings collapse like that so it can lower. That was pretty cool. And again, I'm just amazed that they could do something like that, for a TV show. It's just, Disney money, but they are doing some incredible scenes. Even the landscape here, where that lava terrain and landscape, it's just impressive to me. Most impressive. I thought that I kind of knew that development was going to happen, like that the client was being pressured. Whenever the client is pressuring somebody, that means that he's being pressured as well. It's the corporate pressure, right?
Right.
So I did enjoy that. It is going to be interesting. I think in season 2 we're going to probably see more of Giancarlo Esposito and what, like you said, what is really happening with this remnant of the Empire, or Imperials at least. Maybe there's a faction that's still trying to, make it a powerful presence in the universe even without the Emperor. Little do they know, huh? But yeah.
Well, I mean, to that point, and I think everyone pretty much knows, who's watched the trailers or seen that awful poster, the Emperor is still alive in some form and still pulling strings. Now, it's unclear how long it took him to rematerialize from being thrown down that damn Death Star shaft. If he just popped back up somewhere, is like, that nice try, guys. I'm going to start building my Death Squad now.
He had to wait for his new clothes.
Oh, son of a. But it would be fascinating to find out if Giancarlo Esposito was part of, somehow that secret faction. Because that's one of the questions that we don't find out in the new movie. And I'm not really going to dive deep into this, but it's like how he came up with this, off this unknown quadrant of the galaxy, a fleet of ships. Did he have any kind of help, perhaps, from sympathizers in the fallen remnants of the Empire?
So the First Order, you could be part of that, maybe.
Not even First Order, because this is probably pre-First Order.
The other,
So I'm because that would be actually something interesting. If there was, Kylo Ren and Hux building this First Order, from they're kind of the newbies, but then some of the older guard who didn't hook up with the First Order, they're off doing their own thing because maybe they have some kind of connection to the Emperor. They have a way of getting in touch with him and doing his bidding. I don't know. This is all pure speculation, but there are these ideas from a 2-minute scene in a damn TV show, which open up way more imagination and possibilities than, again, in 2 hours and 21 minutes of the last Skywalker film.
Oh boy. Yeah. I also, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this is the first chapter where there was, not counting the Mandalorian's personal flashbacks of when he was a child and what we're learning there. But is this the first chapter where we actually see a flashback, albeit a montage?
I think so.
They reconstruct IG-11.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that might be flashback to something else where they reference an event and you actually see the event on screen.
That was the point when that started. That was the point where I checked the running time of this, because I'm like, okay, if we're including a flashback montage, are we is this going to be a little bit longer of an episode? Not that I'm complaining, but I was really interested as to why that happened. And I think it could have just been a trivial way to bring back IG-11 and Taika Waititi, but it definitely kind of reinforced the characterization they were going for Kuiil. This is the first time he pronounced his name too. It's Kuiil, Kuill.
I think I called Kroll. Nick Kroll.
Yeah, Kroll, cool. But I think what that montage was showing us, and maybe hopefully Mandalorian, is that we shouldn't always accept things at face value, or things can change. And in this sense, he was talking about, I used patience and affirmation to retrain and rewire this robot. I think he said something about how robots are just an imprint of their makers or something like that. And I honestly, this is almost like a short. And I really enjoyed. It was like a short within a chapter, and I really enjoyed that because it's amazing the economy of it all, because it does give you a chance to breathe and reflect and think, and then we know we go back and we're back to forming this ragtag team. I thought that was pretty cool and surprisingly poignant.
It was, and it they kind of call back to that a couple of scenes later when I think it was Cara Dune was talking about IG-88 or IG-11, sorry, and the Mandalorian was like, or maybe it was Kuiil talking to him, that very point about the robots basically just being neutral entities, and it's what you put into them that makes them good or bad. Right. And Mandalorian says, I've seen things to indicate otherwise, which alludes to something that happened to him in his past, something or some things that we don't know, but it also speaks to the possibility, kind of like the Han Solo idea of the Force, before he became a believer, where Obi-Wan and Luke are trying to convince him that, the Force is real. And he's like, I've seen a lot of things, but never to convince me that, there's a grand guiding force controlling everything, and certainly not me. Maybe the Mandalorian does know something about droids' nature that Kuiil and other people don't. Like, perhaps there is some kind of a non-neutral operating system out there that can override programming, because it makes sense. A toaster isn't going to kill someone unless you mount a machine gun on it and program it to kill. It's just going to make toast. But perhaps IG-11 could reactivate, and there's a great shot of the Mandalorian looking at IG-11 in a distrusting way, but it's shot and held in such a way that we're almost meant to distrust him too.
Right.
So I think that stems from the flashback they showed. I think it was in the third episode, like when his family's being attacked
by the destroyer droids.
Yeah, and there's two heavy droids there. So he has like a personal trauma / hatred towards them that he has to get over, which is funny because I watched a documentary way back, and maybe it wasn't the most fair documentary, but it was called The People versus George Lucas, and there was someone who was working on the Clone Wars. He was asking a note from George Lucas saying, hey, what should I do about these droids? And George said, they're just droids. You can just kill them. I don't care. So it's kind of a direct contrast to his philosophy with that in a certain way. I did like how everyone kind of has the same sort of bond here between Cara Dune, Kuiil,
yeah.
Okay, and the Mandalorian, where they are people who clearly have had some sort of past where they had to serve a life of servitude and kind of be outcasts and maybe not quite have the peace that they want. And Kuiil is the guy who sort of found that peace, but I relate to him because I'm a short guy who has to do a lot of servitude for people. But also, it was just something that connected all of them on a deeper level. Right. That I thought was a great bit of writing.
And I hope that we've not seen the last of Kuiil, but if he really is dead, I think this little vignette of rebuilding IG-88 as much for us to appreciate, what he did and bring this droid back to life, and also kind of underscoring his philosophy about the universe. But it may help to serve the Mandalorian to, as a tribute to his fallen friend, like maybe give this droid a chance until he's proven wrong and IG-11 comes to life and tries to kill everybody. I don't know.
Well, what could also happen in the beginning of the next episode is IG-11 is still on the ship, and maybe he picks up his master and tries to save him. I don't know. Yeah, but I think even just this episode establishes that, man, I almost wanted a little bit more time with this team, this ragtag team, is because Quill actually serves as a really interesting conscience for the group. Mm-hmm. Because he's kind of like the moral center. Because even once after the nightmare campfire, where we sadly lose 2 blurgs. That was terrible. But I really, Quill's having a bad time. But and I like how he's like, well, there's 1 blurg left. I'm going to be riding it, you jerks. But it turns out that once they're overlooking the city, very similar. This is another nod in this season to like overlooking Mos Eisley, mm-hmm. scum and villainy. But once we're overlooking the city there, we learn of Grief Karga's double cross, and that he was planning on killing them all along. It was a great shot, because he kind of takes out the henchman. It was a nice, physical placement. You have Carl Weathers in the front, our heroes in the middle, and then Carl Weathers' red shirts in the back. Literally, if this was Star Trek, those bounty hunters would have been total red shirts, because they never had a line and they never really did anything, and they just stood around looking at each other like, oh, But it was that was a nice moment where Grief Karga is coming clean, saying, hey, look, after what happened last night, I've changed my mind, and you could kill me, and that wouldn't be with outside of the code and everything, but hear me out. This is what we could do. And of course, their instinct is like, no, we're just getting rid of you. But if it wasn't for Quill, having them think this through, there wouldn't be more the rest of the episode to watch. But that was another example where I was glad that he was there to balance them out.
Yeah, he definitely brought balance to the Force in that way. Let's talk briefly about Force Choke Baby Yoda.
Oh yeah.
It's great because he is, he's a little baby, a 50-year-old baby who's protecting, the person who's protecting him by force choking Cara Dune during an arm wrestling match. And it was great because, you could see it as a little kid on not, thinking that it's doing something helpful and it's doing something destructive. Or you could think of it as, going back to my theory, that he's actually evil and stretching out his negative powers.
Too cute to be evil. I don't know what you guys thought.
That's gonna be the Baby Yoda shirt. That's
right.
I was thinking maybe they want that little Baby Yoda because of its force powers, and it could be beneficial to this new empire that they're trying to build in a way, where maybe has something to do with the Emperor or something to do with the Force that they want to use for the dark side.
I don't know. It definitely has to do with how unique and special he is. Whether or not it's, I'm sure it has something to do with his Force sensitivity, but who knows that, and what do they want of it? We're still not totally aware. Because again, this Moff Gideon could be reporting to somebody else, but he was definitely interested in the child. I don't know about you guys, but when that scene happened, he's reaching out in his cute little Yoda way, with his arm out, and I was thinking that he was trying to enhance the fight, the arm wrestle, and he was going to try and help Mando win. But no, he's choking Cara Dune.
I had the same thought. Yeah.
I was like, whoa, this guy took it to a different level.
Yeah.
But I like that it took them a while to figure out. I like that it took them a while to figure out. Oh my gosh, hey, stop doing that. Jeez.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, I think this was an excellent episode. I said during the last episode that the last chapter was my favorite. I've got a new favorite because I think this is amping everything up to a degree that we haven't seen before, but it's not tonally different. It's just building on everything that we've seen before. Yeah. In a way a great serial would. I can only imagine what episode 8's going to be like, because a lot of the model for a lot of these kinds of series is the second to last episode is where everything happens, and then you've got kind of a cool down episode. I think we're going to be taken right up to the brink, and there's going to be a lot of gasping and impatient, like tapping of feet for season 2.
Did you say
chapter 8 drops?
Did you say impatient?
Yes, a lot of former Death Star employees are going to be chomping at the bit to see what happens next.
Yeah.
Every time Deborah Chow directs an episode, it's one of the bigger story episodes, because she did 3 and she did this one. And Taiki Waititi, I hope I said that right.
No, you didn't. Taika Waititi.
Thank you. And he's directing the final episode, so we'll see.
Okay.
What that's gonna be.
So that'll be wild and kooky.
Yeah, maybe
it's gonna have Emperor Palpatine like talking to Baby Yoda in his imagination.
Yeah,
they're gonna be fighting wilder people.
Kicks him out a window.
I wouldn't mind. All right, so I think that's we'll leave it there. So this episode doesn't run as long as the actual show. But thank you guys again. Remember, folks out there in YouTube land, if you like this content, if you don't like this content, whatever, leave us a comment. Please subscribe to the channel and like that button. Smash it, Mike. Yep. Smash it.
Okay, smash.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm sorry. I'm depressed after yesterday.
It'll be okay. It gets better. Well,
I know.
Anyway, thanks, guys, and we'll talk soon.